What's up, y'all? My name is Devontae, and I sacrificed my time so you don't have to. I apologize. I am absolutely not low energy right now. I am absolutely wide awake. I messed my ribs up last night making dinner. It is an absolute long story. I don't want to get into it. It is embarrassing as shit. Go read the community post, put two and two together, but I'm not going to get into it this time. But there is not going to be any yelling in this video. Maybe for a couple of days. There's not going to be any excitement, none of that stuff. My ribs are killing me right now. But I did touch on this last night during the intro for the Dynamite review. But unfortunately, because obviously I can't continue with the video, I had to trash it. Man, damn, there was actually two intros that I had originally. But again, trash the first one. This one couldn't finish the review. And, for the better, because Nyla Rose actually responded, and I can actually make a more in-depth analysis, give a more in-depth take on the whole entire situation, and give my consensus about it, although I'm pretty sure the title gave that away regardless. Nyla Rose reacts to Oklahoma Commission's transphobic warning to AEW. AEW's Nyla Rose wrestled in Oklahoma City on December 23rd of last year, defeating Alejandra Alayan on the night's Ring of Honor taping. The Oklahoma State Athletic Commission, or the OSAC, which oversees wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, and mixed martial arts in the state, says she and the company were in violation of a rule which prohibits transgender athletes from competing against cisgender ones. If you guys don't follow politics or care, cisgender means real women. I don't know why they keep saying cis. It's whatever. That apparently includes participating in a scripted exhibition like pro wrestling. Minutes of the commission's January meeting were shared online this afternoon, April 17. In them, Rose is repeatedly misgendered, while the report documents how OSAC Administrator Jim Miller was informed by a local independent promotion that Rose was on the AEW card in Oklahoma City. Miller contacted AEW to inform them they'd violate the rules, or they violated the committee's rules, and the OSAC unanimously decided to issue a warning to AEW that, and I quote, there will be punitive action made against them, end quote, if Rose or any other trans wrestlers perform opposite a cis one on an AEW or ROH show in the future. OSAC Chairman Mike Bauer also moved to update the state's application for a pro wrestling license, so it includes a question about gender reassignment surgery like the boxing, kickboxing, and MMA ones do. At this point, I could tell you this has more to do with political grandstanding and fear-mongering than any actual concern for Lion or any wrestler. Now, this is coming from the opinion of the author. There are issues regarding trans athletes that are worth discussing, but they represent such a small portion of an already small persecuted population that there are more bigger issues in general and around transgender rights that should be addressed first. Can I stop right there for a second though and just say that I think this author doesn't give a shit one way or the other about whether or not transgender issues from a small proportional standpoint even matters. You can clearly tell that they themselves who wrote this article are absolutely grandstanding themselves, and they're just projecting their own political ideology onto everybody else, which is your right. But don't sit here on your self-righteous perch and pretend that you're not doing the exact same thing that the other authors are doing, or that the people that you're accusing of grandstanding aren't doing themselves, which isn't actually necessarily political grandstanding on their part. They're just enacting their legislation that you don't feel like you should be compliant to have to actually, follow. It's a law. If it's in place, go to another state and you can do whatever you want to do. Continuing on though. In many cases, it seems those turning trans people's participation in athletics into a hot-button issue would rather try to ban a class of human beings they don't understand and build relationships with them so they can. Can I stop right there also? This is not a class of people. I always hated this talking point when it comes to people who are suffering from gender dysphoria. If there's any class of people that you want to actually put them into, it's people with a horrible mental illness. Now, look, I know I can probably get in trouble with this with YouTube, so I'm going to try to be very, very delicate with my words because I still want to get my point across. I really do feel for these people. These people are suffering through gender dysphoria. It's an underlying condition that is usually coinciding with people with horrible depression, right? Now, obviously, I don't want anything happening to these people, but at the same time, feeling that you are compelled by doing what they feel is necessary for their own selves when they're suffering through a horrific mental illness you're an enabler. You're complying with the mental illness in order to feel better about yourself. That's what I mean by the political grandstanding from this guy right here. You're projecting. You're in yourself will always be a political grandstander by actually being okay with what they're doing at the moment, right? And even worse, I can say this from a childlike experience personally also, not looking at the adults. The adults are a little bit different, but you do this and it kind of has this kind of downstream effect, on kids, because then kids want to participate in this knowing that people are giving so many attentions to the adults, when in reality we shouldn't be doing this at all, period, point blank. You shouldn't be enabling a mental illness. This is a horrific mental illness, and to even call it for what it is, it gets you so much backlash, and it's so weird. Can we just acknowledge for a minute that you have a person in a minority group, right? And by minority group, I mean the minority group in regards to how they think, because it's very abnormal to actually participate in stuff like this and pretend that what you're doing is in effect biologically consistent, right? If you're doing what you're doing and you're getting attention for it, and then a child sees it, and then a child feels like that their life is such and such, they feel like that their life is in such shambles that they can get the exact same attention that you're getting based off of what you're doing, not knowing any of the other side effects, because we still have yet to really map out the true side effects of all this stuff that has to do with, transgender surgery, affirmation surgery, all this other kind of stuff. You know what? I'll even say this. I disagree with the practice, but I would much rather a child, for an example. Again, horribly disagree, honestly, but if you're asking me to pick between two of the biggest devils, like if you're gonna do this, at the very least, two things. One, homeschool your child, and two, just dress them up. That's it. Dress them up. You don't have to do anything crazy like gender, testosterone injections or, hormone therapy or any of that stuff. You don't have to do all of that. If you're really going to do this, stop trying to take decisions out of your children's hands. I'm just speaking strictly to the children now. Like, just have them homeschooled so you don't put them through any type of traumatic experience. If you really truly feel, and it's so hard nowadays to even say that, like, oh, well, you should talk to a professional about this, because the professional, especially those in big pharma, take advantage of this situation and they make a bunch of money off of these kids and off the parents who want so badly to fit in with the rest of society, as far as the stupid, ridiculous mindset of believing that affirmation for everything is the cool thing and it's in, and it's just a cycle that no one ever actually takes the time to think about the child in that position. You have big pharma trying to make money off the parents, and you have the parents who are trying to fit into whatever close-knit group that they want to fit in so badly. It's all an emotional approach to something that can be physically detrimental to a child, and for that matter, even an adult going further in life. But now, again, if you're an adult, you can make decisions for yourself. But strictly speaking about children, you should really stop doing this, man. I don't even know why this is even controversial to say. And just to continue on with the article, because I have more to say about this, right? You have people who are more going out of their way, glorifying the situation, and they're like, for an example, you have this guy Sean. This is who Nyla Rose reacted to. They said, "News, I have received the minutes from January's Oklahoma Athletic Commission about a transgender wrestler. In regard to Nyla Rose competing, the commission passed a motion to warn AEW to not do this again, or there will be punitive action taken," as we read in the article, which, by the way, is in the description box below if you want to read more into it, although I read the whole thing already. Nyla Rose, who, she could be justly upset. Notice what I'm saying right now, because I got to be very careful. I'm going to say she, okay? Biologically, Nyla Rose is a man. That is a man. Within the context, because I'm trying my best not to get in trouble by YouTube or anybody, I'm going to refer to Nyla Rose as a she. Do I believe that Nyla Rose is a she? No. Am I enabling this? No, because that's why I'm letting you know right now. No, Nyla Rose is a biological man, okay? A biological man. Within this context, I will say she, though, because I don't want to get in trouble by YouTube. She says, "Who the fuck was it? Don't worry, Oklahoma. I'll find the dastardly transgender," checks notes, "that entertained fans. How dare they make people happy?" No, Nyla, and look, I get it. In the end of the day, one may assume that she's heartbroken by this entire situation, that she can't compete, and maybe she feels in her mind that she's been discriminated against. But two things. One, discrimination doesn't apply to people who do things to themselves. Discrimination has to have something that you were born with that you can't help, whether it's a skin color, whether it's an actual legitimate biological sex that you're actually being opposed to because of said biological sex. There has to be something immutable about you that you can't help. It just happens to be you. Nyla, you did that to yourself. That is surgery, right? That is absolute. That'd be like me putting on cat ears that I bought from the store and saying that people are discriminating against me for wearing cat ears. Then you could take the cat ears off, right? Right, you can do that. And just like transgender, unfortunately, and that's one of my biggest gripes about it, you go so far, there is no reverse in the situation. But theoretically, you can reverse the situation. And that's number two, or number one, obviously. And obviously, it's not going to be the same as to what you were originally biologically. But you could if you really, really wanted to. I'm saying there's a choice in this. No matter how hard it is, it's a choice within all this. And number two, before all this could have even occurred, you did this to yourself. You have to accept the ramifications that come with the decisions that you make in life. I'm not even understanding why this is such a controversial thing to say about people who are suffering through gender dysphoria that you people go out of your way to enable. Yes, every decision that you make in life, there will always be a cause and an effect. And Nyla Rose, you made a detrimental decision, and these are the consequences that are bestowed upon you. The decision that you made in regards to this is that Oklahoma has a particular legislation because there are hard stance about male and female violence. It's just like that. You can hate the decision all you want to. People around the internet, around the interwebs, who, by the way, they're the ones, in my opinion, the biggest villains in all of this are the people who knowingly know for a simple fact that the thing that they're siding against is not only detrimental to the person, but also you put them in a situation where they have to go through the situation as far as feeling, like they're sad, that they're lonely, all this other kind of stuff. You did this to them. All in the name of inclusivity. Can you tell me how that's not evil? That's what I'm saying about the person who was talking in the article, talking about political grandstanding. How is that not evil, right? How is that not blatantly evil? That you're taking your political ideology, your agenda essentially, right? And you're using victims in order to push said political agenda. Right? It's like when I hear things about the abortion argument and people talk about, well, let's take this overarching minority, which is what it is, right? And talk about rape victims and incest victims, which is horrible. And personally, for me, I think there should be ways to circumvent the situation, but that's when safe, legal, and rare starts to play a part, right, into that legislation as far as what you're trying to conduct in order to have the abortion take place. But at the same time, why is that the narrative when the actual narrative overall, numerically speaking, statistically speaking, what we have after a sample size of over 650 million abortions done as late as 2019, what we have is that the majority of them that came in to get it, over 90%, I can't remember the actual number, it was like 92%, something along the lines of that. They said, and this is over 650 million people, women. So before people are like, well, there are more people under the table that you don't know about. No, this is the actual group in itself. They said that they got it out of convenience. 90% out of convenience. And that leaves the rest of the people who got it from rape and incest. So why are you using rape and incest, right, to not only dismember babies, put that to the side for a second, but also make a mockery of the people who actually went through rape and incest in order to push your agenda, which is legitimately to have it out of convenience. That's what it is. Let's argue on the basis of what we actually reject and what we accept, rather than trying to take victims and making them the actual plot of what you're trying to get across, which is nothing more than the armor of what you're actually trying to get across, which is your legitimate agenda. Coming back to the transgender issue though, Nyla, you're a biological man. These are women. The law constitutes that they don't want men fighting women. Right? Right? That's the whole idea. Men fighting women is bad. And for people who are like, oh, Devontae, it's a predetermined sport and people still get injured. I hate, like, you know what you're doing when you say things like that. You're playing stupid on purpose. It's a predetermined sport. No shit. We all know wrestling is scripted. People still get injured. People still get hurt. Why is it convenient now? Whenever people talk about professional wrestling and they make a mockery out of it in front of your face, you'll be the first one to bring up the argument that, well, these guys get injured. Well, these guys are on the road 300 days a week or whatever the case may be. But when it's time to actually talk about why that is actually important in the situation, you play stupid and completely ignore that entire argument. No, that's a woman that Nyla Rose, who is a biological man, has wrestled, and there was a potential where that biological woman could have gotten hurt. And then the news headlines, and not even just the new headlines, just morally speaking, what kind of society do you want to live in where, like, you just had simulated battle between a man and a woman and the man just horrifically injured her? Whether by accident, obviously it'll be by accident. No one is going to actually propose that it'll be on purpose. But just the idea that we live in a society nowadays that we're actually simulating violence between men and women, and then the man actually hurts the woman, that's the situation. That's the proposition. You can hate it all you want to, but that's why that is actually in place. That's why it's on the same playing field as an MMA or a boxing or anything in general regarding men versus women. Because that's what can happen. Personally speaking, that's why I feel so, I never thought about this or I've actually talked about this, but that's how I personally feel about intergender wrestling. Now, obviously, priority-wise, I'm not going to play games with you guys. Yes, my priority when it comes to intergender wrestling is just the actual aesthetic of how it looks like a man fighting against a woman and insulting my intelligence as a wrestling fan, which I know as a wrestling fan, that's actually saying a lot. But my point being is, though, that coinciding with the fact that legitimately it is still a man beating up a woman. Like, can we at least take that into context, or does the politics matter so much that you can't even look at that as far as on a surface level, not even like just objectively a surface level thing, right? So let's highlight some couple things before we get out of here that we can have a perfectly good understanding for, right? Gender dysphoria, yes or no? Is it a mental illness? Yes or no? Now, if you're being good faith, or better yet, if you're just educated on this situation, yes, it is. Okay? It's a mental illness. It's underneath depression. It is. Is that not what Nyla Rose is going through? Yes or no? Yes. Because look at her, right? Are you enabling that behavior by going out of your way to not go out of your way to get help for Nyla Rose, but actually advocating for this to be normal? When you know biologically or just even just culturally, no one agrees with this at all. At all. It's doing more harm than good for the person. And you can look at the rest of the world and know that this happens to be the case. It's only the West that actually participates in this nonsense. But let's put that to the side also. Why are you doing this? Can we ask that question too? Why are you enabling this? You tell me it's for the good of the person, but you're not actually helping the person. Helping the person would be getting them the mental evaluation that they need in order to fix the situation, right? You're enabling their behavior, which, by the way, I don't think you guys know this, but this actually contributes more. I forgot the study, and maybe I can find it. I'll put it in the description box. There's actually a study that's been conducted, I think from a left-wing source, but on top of that also. And honestly, I think NPR actually recited this, which is also a left-wing source. And they said something along the lines of, I can't remember, that transgender people who got surgery were more inclined to actually take their own lives more so than people prior to the surgery in itself, right? And even for transgender children and stuff like that, where they say stuff like, oh, can I say this also? Always use this argument. Whenever you have people, and I thought about this, mind you, no one has claimed this argument. This is my argument, so take it with a grain of salt. But personally, whenever someone comes to me and they try to come with the ridiculous argument of, do you want an alive son or a dead daughter or something like that, I always have to bring up the fact that, okay, so you're just going to not be a parent. And I am being a parent. And I'll say something on the lines of, okay, well, hypothetically speaking, let's just say your son walked up to you, or your daughter walked up to you, who's like 12 or 13 years old, and they said that they wanted to make love to you, right? What would you do? Would you actually go along with what they're saying, which is not normal, and actually make love to them? No, you wouldn't do it. You'd be a parent. So why aren't you using that exact same logic when it comes to transgenderism, right? Why aren't you using the exact same logic? Everything comes down to consent. But like I said, when it comes to the adults, who are you helping in the end of the day? You're not helping anybody. You're not helping Nyla Rose. You're not helping anybody else within this country who is horribly, unfortunately, suffering through gender dysphoria. You're just doing it just so you can feel good about yourself. I'm not even sure how you don't find that even remotely unironically evil. You're a horrible person if that's how you think. That you think that likes are more important than the person who you supposedly are trying to help, and then you have the audacity to project that people are grandstanding on a political issue that you're also making outright political. How do I know this? Because this wasn't a thing 10 years ago. This wasn't in the forefront of anybody's social life 10 years ago. You made it a thing 10 years ago. That's political. You inserted a narrative that never existed at all. People who suffer through gender dysphoria, it was within their own circle, within their own personal life. And you made it a forefront issue because you wanted to feel good about yourself. And you wanted a political take that you could heavily stand on and actually grasp at emotionally on a political standpoint. That's what it is. Even for the people who don't even recognize it, who go along with it, that's what it is. And you side with that. I don't know what to say, man. Besides the fact that I absolutely agree with Oklahoma. No, Nyla Rose should not be in the ring with a woman beating up a woman, simulated or otherwise. They're both horrible. You have a problem with that? What can I say? Cry about it. I don't know. As always, my name is Devontae, and I'll be catching you guys later. Deuces, P. Ice.